I've been taking pictures of dancers for almost 10 years, and it is by far my favorite type of photography. I love getting to work with lots of artists. I love getting to showcase their strengths and getting those really creative wow moments behind the camera. It's amazing. And so I thought for today's video, I would share some best practices that I've found to help make sure the shoot is as successful as possible. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. As you can see, I am officially moved into my new place, and I would say this is about 95% there of what I wanted to look like. So still tweaking, but very happy with it so far. But with all the moving and unpacking going on, and as of this recording, it is fall. School year has just started, so I'm teaching classes again, and I have to choreograph and plan and do rehearsals, all that stuff. Honestly, it's broken up my flow a little bit with the plan for videos for this channel, and so I was not sure what to make a video on this week. But I have a photo shoot tomorrow that I'm prepping for, so I figured, hey, this would be a great time to make a video, just share some best practices that I found helpful when working with dancers. Before the shoot, when you're talking to the photographer, hopefully you found someone that you like their style, it seems like they know what they're doing. But I think it's really good to just make sure you're clear with them what kind of images you're looking for. Are you looking for a Rachel Neville studio portrait type of thing, or a Jordan Matter on location shoot, or something in between? Someone like me, where I don't have a studio, my style is kind of all over the place depending on what the client wants. Sometimes I'm setting up a backdrop in a dance studio, other times I'm going on location in a forest, other times I'm going into the streets in DC. I never know for sure until the dancer tells me what they're looking for. Now, if you are going to a photographer and all they do is in studio shoots, hopefully they just know that already, but it's even great to say, hey, I want some color in the shot. Is it possible to make it darker or moodier, or color the lights instead of it just always being a bright white? Things like that. So use different adjectives to describe the look that you would like, and that way the photographer can tell you what they're able to do, not able to do, and it can be a really fun experience for everyone involved. If your photographer is okay with it, and I don't see why they wouldn't be, I would highly recommend sending them pictures of what you plan on wearing for the shoot. If you have multiple outfits, for sure, but even if it's not, just seeing the type of fabric, the colors can help us as a photographer plan on the location, what to look for ahead of time. We might even come up with some pose ideas ahead of time. For example, if I know you have a more flowy fabric, then I can plan to have some things that have more sweeping motions. Obviously, we can always play with that the day of, but as the photographer, I always appreciate it if I know ahead of time what the dancer is planning on wearing. Now, the day of, for sure, make sure you bring things to touch up your makeup, your hair, the things to dab off sweat, because unless it's cold outside, after a little bit, you will start to sweat, and we don't want that in the image or getting on your costume. Also, I guess while we're talking about makeup and stuff, as the photographer, I try to remember to remind the dancer to, touch up and fix their hair, things like that. But sometimes I just really get into the flow of it. So during the shoot, for sure, I would say remind yourself to take a moment, double check your makeup, double check your hair, double check your costume, all of that, if the photographer is not doing that. If you're gonna be outside, so on location in the city or anything like that, I would wear something light that you can easily take on and off. So like a light jacket, some sweatpants, maybe some shoes you could easily kick on and off, some flip-flops. That way you can make sure your body stays warm, but also a lot of times dancers get a little self-conscious walking down the street in a leotard or whatever else they're wearing. So it's nice to have the option to throw something on, walk to location, take it off real quick, and then get the shots. Definitely bring some inspiration images, especially if you're not as experienced in photo shoots. It's hard coming up with poses on the spot sometimes, or you might have thought, or you might have found an image, but then you just forget it in the moment. So have them on your phone and just save them, and that way you can show the photographer, you can look at them to remind yourself, or if there's someone there with you, they can hold on to it for you so you can keep referencing it. But remember, they're just inspiration photos. Everyone's body is different, the lighting is different, the location's different, and so your images are going to look very different from those inspiration images. The goal with those images is to just give you a spark, an idea that then you and the photographer can riff off of. And hopefully the photographer will look at that, look at what you're doing, and then give suggestions, things to tweak it, things to make it a little bit better, things like that. Please, please, please make sure you warm up. You are about to do a lot of jumps, kicks, I don't know what else, splits, whatever it is. Your body has to be warm. Especially with my younger dancers, they often think they can just go and throw a leg up. No, go warm up. Go do some stretches and some gentle movements while I get my camera ready to go. Because if you're not warm, you're not going to be able to hit your highest jump, your biggest leap, all those things, or you're going to injure yourself, and we definitely don't want that. So dancers, please make sure you warm up. If you're with a photographer who is not familiar with dancers, make sure you tell them, hey, I need 10 minutes to warm up first before we start shooting. Along with that, safety first. Your body, it is not worth injuring yourself for a shot. I don't care how cool the shot is. It is not worth it. It is not worth you injuring yourself and then having to sit out for half a year or whatever it is until your ankle recovers or whatever the injury is. So being mindful if you are jumping on concrete or hard surfaces, if the surface is slippery or just not smooth, if you're just feeling tired or you don't feel comfortable doing a move or another jump or whatever the photographers may be asking you to do, make sure you're speaking up for yourself and only doing things that you feel confident in doing. Now, if you maybe are okay with trying it once or twice and that's it, that's also fine, but make sure you tell the photographer that. Again, as the photographer, sometimes we just get really excited. We see, oh, the image is almost there, but it's not quite. If we just tweaked one thing, so we just keep asking you to do it over and over again. And sometimes we might forget, oh, they're probably getting tired. So make sure you advocate for yourself during those moments and tell them, hey, I can only do this 2 more times maybe, or I got 1 more in me and then we have to move on. And then also make sure you stay hydrated, bring water, make sure you take breaks in between. Again, it is not worth injuring yourself to get that one shot. Next tip is to ask to see the images during the shoot. It is totally okay to ask the photographer if you can look at the back of their camera to see how the images look. That way you can double check your technique. If there's anything that you see that you need to adjust on your own, if you see something, you can even tell the photographer, hey, I think I can turn this leg out more. Hey, I think I can point this foot more. Can you look out for that for me? So next time, if it's not there, you can just tell me. Especially again, if it's a photographer who isn't as familiar with dance, they're not gonna know to look for those things. I can tell you, photographers are gonna look for lighting and composition first and foremost. If the lighting is good, if the composition is good, if the image is sharp, that's their priority unless they are familiar with dance. So it is up to you to really educate the photographer sometimes if they're not as familiar with dance. Even me, where I've been taking pictures for a while, I am more of a hip hop dancer and I don't take as many contemporary lyrical ballet pictures as maybe I used to. And so even me, I have to remind myself sometimes, what am I looking for? Or I can't always tell if that is the dancer's limit. Maybe the leg could be turned out more, but maybe that is as far as that dancer's leg can go. And so as the photographer, I don't want to make them feel bad about their abilities by pointing that out. So then I have to be careful with how I word it. I can ask them, hey, can you come look at this? Tell me if you're happy. What do you think about that leg? What do you think about that turnout? Whatever it is. So again, sometimes the photographer may not know to look for those things. Other times we might think that is what your body is capable of, and so we're not gonna try and push it more. So always look at the image and just communicate with the photographer. Just remember that you need to be flexible with your expectations for the shoot. It's never gonna go exactly the way you think it will, and so if a pose doesn't work out the way you want it to, or a location or a lighting look, or maybe the photographer is being really nitpicky with adjusting things here and there, be patient, be flexible, and kind of just go with the flow, because that is when you're gonna find those really cool moments. Usually it's when you weren't even expecting it, to be honest. There have been so many times during a shoot where we got the things we were trying to do, and then we were able to experiment and play with different lightings or locations or get really creative with the angles, and those were the moments that were like the best. So be flexible, be open to new ideas, but again, be safe, take care of your body. And that's the last tip for this video. You know your body the best, so make sure you advocate for yourself. So how hard you can push your body, what's realistic with your body, do you feel safe if you're getting tired, whatever you're comfortable with. Make sure that you are keeping all those things in mind and not just going with it just because the photographer asked you to. I think for younger dancers or people who are less experienced with photo shoots, it is easy to assume the photographer knows what they're doing and everything they ask you to do is good and safe. And that's unfortunately not always the case. Sometimes we get carried away. Other times, unfortunately, maybe we're not thinking about it or just not mindful of it. For example, I've seen some water shoots where the floor gets really slippery and then the dancer jumps and slips and slams into the ground. I've even had it happen once where we were just on a Marley and the kicker did a battement and they just kicked really hard. The floor was kind of slippery there and she went down and slammed her ribs. So you just never know what's going to happen, and that probably was a result of her being a little tired, so she was just overcompensating with her kick and she wasn't supporting herself as well. But then also, nerves, the floor was a little bit slippery. Maybe, I maybe could have wiped it down a little bit better beforehand from the previous dancers that were on there. You never know. There's so many things. So just make sure that you are always advocating for yourself and that you are comfortable with what the photographer is asking you to do. All that to say, I think dance photo shoots are so much fun for both the photographer and the dancer or dancers involved. So hopefully these tips help you the next time you're going to do a dance photo shoot. And if I've missed any tips, let me know in the comments. Like always, make sure you like this video, hit that subscribe button, and hit that bell icon so you know the next time I drop a video. Thank you all so much for your continued support, and I'll see you next time.